This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Good evening, and welcome to the July 27th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners for the Town of North Haven. My name is Larry Lazaroff, Chairman of the Board. To my left, Ms. Wright, is Vice Chairman Robin Wilson. To my right, Secretary Mark Calafiore. To his right, Commissioner Bob Hannon. Absent tonight is Alden Mead, Commissioner Mead. I'd like to ask for a motion for the approval of the June 22nd, 2021 meeting, both regular and executive sessions.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Secretary, do we have any correspondences?
We do. We have two pieces of correspondence, Mr. Chairman. One is from the high school principal, Mr. Russell Dalai. He wants to thank the police department and the fire department for another amazing job with assisting the graduation. And in particular, he's singling out Sergeant D. Pascal for his professionalism and his commitment to this town, and he just did a great job. So thank you, Sergeant D. Pascal, for another good job. And just one more piece of correspondence. This is from Charles W. Sherwood. He's from the South Central Criminal Justice Administration, and it's a letter directed to the Chief Glenn, and he just wants to thank you for allowing Captain Stavridis to serve as a panelist, and I think it's in Clinton, for the town of Clinton. So thank you for that.
That's it?
That's it.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so before I begin my chairman's report, I'd like to ask for a motion to amend the agenda tonight to move the chief's traffic report and public comments to directly after my report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, the chairman's report. A couple of weeks ago, I was taking part in a CALEA interview. As you know, that the department is going under CALEA reevaluation, recertification, and I'm sure the chief will expand upon that, or the deputy. I wanted to thank Lieutenant Thorpe for providing the video which was used in that CALEA presentation. About 2 weeks ago also, the chief and I were members of a neighborhood meeting at the Ridge Road area. The neighborhood group had asked us to meet, and we met at Ridge Road parking lot. And they wanted to discuss issues that are involving the town as far as public safety, the motor vehicle incidences, the problems we have with juvenile offenders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It went very, very well, and we were received very well, and we answered a lot of questions, and it was embracing. They were very flattering to the police department. And so anybody out there who'd like to have a meeting in a neighborhood, we'd be happy to meet with you to keep the communication lines open at all times. With that being said, I'd like to remind everybody to please lock your vehicles, your homes, your sheds. Most of the problems that we have in town are with vehicles that are left unlocked, and we could certainly help ourselves and our community by just being a little bit more prudent and paying a little bit more attention to our own property. Being summertime, we'd also like to remind everybody to be more watchful. Not that you shouldn't always be watchful. Children are playing in the streets, bike riding, skateboards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, motorcycles. There's a lot more going on with nicer weather, so please be more attentive. Watch your speed, watch your environment, and just certainly no cell phones while you're driving. Just a reminder that the concerts on the green are now ongoing. There is one tonight as well, so I hope you participate and attend the concerts. They're wonderful. They're just a good time for the family. With that, we're going to go right to the chief's traffic report, so we can go to the public comment as well.
Sounds good. To start with our first traffic signage request, it was for Old Broadway East. This was tabled from last month, but to recap, after a complaint was filed regarding parking problems on Old Broadway East, we assigned Sergeant D. Pascal to investigate the complaint, and parking was identified to be problematic for a few reasons. Number one, it's difficult for large trucks to access many of the businesses for deliveries when parking is taking place on both sides of the roadway, and there are concerns regarding road width for large fire department apparatus if they have to respond midway or towards the end of Old Broadway East in an emergency, which luckily has not happened as far as emergency status when parking was taking place on both sides of the roadway. Our recommendation, as you recall from last month, is to install no parking signs on the north side of Old Broadway, east, from Old Broadway to the end of the cul-de-sac. But I believe there's some public comment this evening, if you'd like to entertain that.
Yeah, so I see we have a nice group here tonight, so I'm looking forward to hearing what your comments might be. I ask that when you approach, you please state your name and address for the record, and then have your comments. So who would like to start us off?
I'll go first.
There you go.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Lee. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Fasano, Polito, Lee & Florentine with an address of 388 Orange Street in Haven. I'm here tonight on behalf of John Acampora and the Hard Hat Cafe. Hard Hat Cafe, as probably many of you know, is located on Old Broadway and probably was the precipitating factor for the complaints that we read about or heard about tonight. John has operated the Hard Hat Cafe there for 28 years, and prior to him, the place was a number of other establishments dating back to the 1960s. Since this property has had a restaurant, there's been parking on the street, on both sides of the street. It's been instrumental in the growth of the restaurant business at that location for John and his predecessors. And if the town were to impose no parking on one side of the street, it certainly would limit the ability of his customers to frequent the Hard Hat Cafe and would impose a financial hardship on him. Certainly appreciate the concerns of other residents. I'm not here to demean them or diminish those returns. It's our hope that we can reach some kind of compromise that will allow John to continue to operate his business, allows patrons to go to the Hard Hat, park on the street, and gain access to the restaurant, and not prohibit other people from operating their commercial establishments too. One of the things John told me is that a lot of the businesses on Old Broadway are limited in terms of hours. They cease business operations at 4 o'clock. John tends to be busier later in the afternoon and the evening, so perhaps maybe there's something that we can accommodate in terms of timing of any parking restrictions. The other thing I noticed in the report was the possibility of demarcating certain parking locations on the street. So instead of a prohibition against parking on the north side of the street, maybe the commission consider delineating certain specified parking spaces. If those parking spaces were delineated away from the driveways of some of these commercial establishments or some of the other businesses there, maybe that could accommodate their request to have commercial traffic, trucks gain access to their sites as well. Along those lines, I heard the mention tonight that, that there's a concern about the town emergency vehicles and accessing the site. Certainly, we appreciate that. Obviously, public safety is paramount. I did not see any communication or correspondence from the fire department to say that the parking on both sides of the road does present a safety hazard or a fire access hazard. We certainly would welcome the opportunity to have this matter referred to the fire department. Maybe the fire department could take a look and see if the parking prohibits the fire trucks from getting access towards the end of the cul-de-sac. So those are some of our concerns. Obviously, John has a vested interest in trying to resolve this situation. He does want to have parking on both sides of the street in some ways. We're willing to try to work with these gentlemen to see if there's something that can accommodate their business interests and our business interests. But certainly an outright prohibition of parking on one side of the street would have a drastic economic impact on his business and also prevent the patrons who go to and enjoy the food and the atmosphere of the Hard Hat from also using that facility. So based on that, we would ask the board to give a lot of consideration to whether no parking is an appropriate resolution of this issue, or whether there are alternatives to that, namely, limiting the parking on one side of the street, putting an hours restriction on one part of the street that would accommodate John's needs as well as the needs of these gentlemen.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any questions for the gentleman? Thank you. Anybody else?
Brian Vancourt, Preferred Manufacturing. I have two addresses on the street. I have 68 Old Broadway as well as 57. It's a smaller building on the opposite side. It's always been an issue for me because my guys work till 7:30 at night. Sometimes we do round-the-clock work. We start at 7 in the morning. We're there a long day. And for the most part, they're just overhanging my driveway, encroaching on my access ability. My driveways are wide. It's not a big problem. We maneuver around them. But as recent as June 15th, I was pulling out with a loaded truck, and they were parked on both sides of the street. There was a delivery truck delivering food of some sort, Cisco guy maybe or something like that. And there was one of the mattress guys trying to get back in. I'm trying to get out. And nobody can get by the Cisco guy. He's parked crooked in between both sides of the street. He's actually blocking my second driveway. And he took 5 hand trucks back and forth before we could move. I mean, it was a little ridiculous. There's nowhere for him to unload. I understand he's got to run his business, but that shouldn't incriminate on mine. Aside from that, I think if the police department thinks a fire truck might have a problem get down there, I think he's good enough to say, I don't think we need a fireman to say a fire truck won't fit. My truck didn't fit. The Expect or whatever, whoever those guys are now, the XPOs, their truck didn't fit. And it's just not that during the day. I've come down there late in the evening, sometimes 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night just to do something, and they're all backed in my driveway, they're up to my blocking my stuff. You're parking my spot. You know, it's just irritating at worst. The part that other people have and they say is that, you know, does my insurance cover that? If somebody goes to the bar, has a few too many, maybe they're not the driver, maybe the other guy's the designated driver, but they slip in my parking lot and fall. What's my liability? I don't need that access. I'd rather have them stay in the street, fall on your liability. You know, they're not going to have a problem with that. But that's, you know, the most of it. I do get a lot of, I haven't trimmed my bushes. The last time I started to trim my bushes in the springtime, I filled a garbage pail full of beer bottles, booze bottles. I mean, it's just amazing how much stuff was in my bush. And they're not just little, I mean, a lot of them are nips, but some of them are damn big bottles. And the crowd is the people who they are. I used to rent one of the buildings across the street. They parked in where Benny the Taper now owns. I rented that building from his great aunt, and when I did, they defecated in the parking lot. There was used condoms in the parking lot. There was trash everywhere. People cleaned their car out in the parking lot. It was just disgusting, and I had to pick it up every morning. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Any questions, anybody? Sir?
How are you, Commissioner? Vincent Massaro. I own 59 Old Broadway East. I represent 15 to 21 tenants at my facility, and at least once a week I get calls, 12 o'clock, 11:30, we can't get out of our driveway. One of my tenants is here that runs a trailer business. Race cars come in and out. Businesses want to move to North Haven. We're fully rented, thank God. But that's the parking on both sides of the street is a huge, massive problem for me. Tenants now want to leave, break their leases, and get out. It's not fair to me. I've lost tens of thousands of dollars already because of this parking on both sides of the street. I understand John needs to run his business. That's great, but I have to run mine too, and I have people renting for me. And for us not to be able to pull out is a serious problem. Ongoing, all the time, all hours. You know, my tenants are all hours of the night. They're not just, you only can stay here until 5 and you won't get out after that. I can't do that. And I have pictures here that you're more than welcome to look at that my camera footage took of all the ongoing problems that we have on the street.
Sure, you can pass them around.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, there's a bunch of them, so start. Oh, I'm sorry.
Anything else, sir?
No, that's it.
Anybody
Thank
else?
you so much.
Sure.
Ed McDougal, I'm one of the tenants at 59 Old Broadway, and I operate a race team with 2 different trailers that cannot get in or out during happy hour on Thursday or Friday night, so I have to get all my business ahead of time, take time off from work to go do my hobby, as well as orchestrate where I'm going to come back with my 40-foot trailer before 1 o'clock in the morning. So I have to park it out in Wallingford and then negotiate how to transfer cars back, because there's no way I can drive down that road with my trailer and truck. And the same thing getting out, I have to usually park a car on one side of the road so that I can make the pivot to get out. So I literally park my own car there, run, get the truck, move the car so I can pull my, so it's planning that is taking time from my hobby and my work. And I don't think that a compromise to have the cars only parked on one side of the street is probably gonna limit, 10 customers that have to walk from the main drag over to us or park down in the cul-de-sac. I think it's a good compromise, and I think it's a safe thing for the town. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Good. Okay. Any other comments, or we'll talk about this? I think that that we probably should call the fire chief, even though I know you say you don't think it's necessary, because that would just complete the evaluation, since it is one of the main concerns as well as having a fire truck get down there for safety. And there's his advice, and he is the fire marshal, and he's what's his other job, is safety commander, whatever his title is, that we should probably have his input. And I can appreciate the concerns of all you guys. I also have a business in town, and I understand. Believe me, we want to try to work together, obviously, but we still want to be able to do business properly. So, and I get it. So, with that being said, I think
I just interrupt?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I did went to the fire department, and I did speak with him, and he told me it is a problem.
Okay.
And he told me it's the police department's issue.
First of all, I talked to the fire department, and they told me it wasn't a problem. So let's have the
excuse
fire
me, John, excuse me, you have to mention your name and your address before you speak, sorry. It's okay.
John Akinfora.
Okay, so I think the best thing is to do, there's only one last piece of this puzzle.
We have no problem with making these guys, working with them to work things out.
And that would be our goal, obviously.
That's what we're trying to do.
Obviously, we're all of us.
We're not here to...
We're all here to try to support each other in businesses in North Haven. We're supposed to be a very cooperative, communicative family.
On the width of the street, which I've already talked to some of the firemen, they came down, physically looked at it with cars there, and yes, the end of the street has to be done. Yes, their areas need to be cleared out across from your walkways and across from your driveways. I agree with that, that's fine.
Okay.
So let's mark it all out.
So, going back to where I started off, I think the best thing to do, that by next month's meeting, we'll be able to render a decision, because we'll have the fire departments and fire chiefs' best recommendations. And even though you've spoken to them, and apparently you've spoken to them, I've not spoken to him. And has anybody else here spoken to him?
No.
Okay. And since we have to make this decision on behalf of everybody, the best decision we can for this town, obviously, the best decision for your businesses, that's the proper thing to do, to get the final piece of the puzzle, I believe, and then we can make a decision. So I'd ask for a motion that we ask the fire chief to do either a study or a walkthrough, and I'll be happy to go, or so one of us can go with him, so that there are two of us can go with him, just so we know what's going on.
Yeah.
And we make a presentation to if you guys want to come back next month, then we can make a decision upon that with having all the pieces of the puzzle correct. And I'm not trying to show anybody any favoritism, because I know most of you guys are anyway. And I don't want to, we're all in business here in this community, okay?
I think somebody mentioned if we marked each spot that can be parked, would probably be easier.
Well, that would be up to him to decide. If he says...
What's blocking you, then we can just mark, okay, the car can go here, we can actually make the lines.
Well, you can't do that, and I can't do that.
No,
so we need to have his input in this, because that's his job, and he has the knowledge, he has the training, and that will come to a resolve, therefore, at next month's meeting, I hope, so we can make everybody happy. No one's going to be 100% happy, let's face it, but we have to come to the best possible agreements to make it the best working.
I want to say one more thing.
Sure.
So I went down to the end to where they have the tractor trailers, and I purposely went in there and sat down with the managers. They didn't want to give their names, but if they need to be here, they will. Both managers said under no circumstance do they have a problem getting their tractor trailers down that road, because they don't get deliveries after 4 o'clock. And they said when we lock the road out, most of the time it's an event that people don't tell us how many people are coming. They tell us 30, and 65 show up, and we, we're not trying to make trouble for these guys. These are my neighbors. I want to get along with them.
Exactly.
But when somebody says we're having a stag, we're having 40 people, and then it's 65, 70 people, we don't expect that. So I can't even be prepared to have somebody out in the street to...
Again, the fire chief, I'm sure, has all the expertise and knowledge that this is not going to be his first inspection, obviously, of a road, especially to present his fire equipment down for safety. Let's wait. Let's get his interpretation, his analysis, his recommendations, and therefore we can move forward at that point.
Can we meet when you guys are there? Like, could we?
I think, no, I don't think, we don't want to have that. No, we want to have the fire chief with 1 or 2 commissioners, maybe the police chief if he wants to, it's up to him, I don't know. Because that's his job. He doesn't need to have a group of people asking him questions. It's up to him to measure, analyze, and give us the advice that we need.
Does that sound fair to Brett?
Fair.
All right, so I'll make the motion that, that we table this proposal.
And I will contact the fire chief and
Contact the
ask
fire-
for him a time to meet with 1, 2, or all of us, but most likely it's not going to happen.
Correct.
And, perfect.
All right, so I'll make that motion that we table it, postpone it, whatever you want to say, until next month, until we talk to the fire chief and we get a visual and his opinion, and then we bring it back here.
Again, our goal is,
I'll second.
okay, our goal is to make everyone happy here, obviously. We want to keep this a cohesive community where everybody does business and does good business, and we're all friendly neighbors. That's the goal here. So I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. We were going to try our best, trust me, to make this a very, hopefully, happy situation where everybody can be satisfied. That's our goal anyway. Thanks, guys. If you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise...
Yeah, the motion on the floor.
all in favor? I'm sorry, the motion?
Oh, on.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, Gavin.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you, guys. Okay. So we've just had a little discussion over the old Broadway situation. We'll get back to our regular meeting now. And Chief, we're back on your report.
Great, staying with the traffic report, we have a request for a slow child at play and a deaf child sign on Beechwood Drive. Although we respect the concerns of this parent making the request, the State Traffic Authority does not recommend these types of signs. They recently noticed that we had a few old signs similar to this on Cloudland Road and in that area, and they requested that we take them down. So I
What?
respectfully recommend a motion to deny this request.
What is their rationale?
Because a deaf child lives on the road, so they want to just give people a heads up to look out
No, but
for.
what's the rationale for not putting them up?
I don't think that studies have shown that it helps anybody. It doesn't decrease speeds. If you litter the signs with if you litter the roads with signs, then all the signs become less effective.
What was the other sign? That was that?
Deaf and slow child.
And slow child.
Slow child at play and deaf child
Where's this again?
on Beechwood Drive.
Okay. Right, well, if that's the recommendation
Yeah.
of studies, then,
Yeah, make a motion that we deny the request.
okay, second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the third and final traffic request comes from a resident of 1 Victor Road requesting site improvements adjacent to his property along Clintonville Road. This is a state roadway, as you know, and the request from us has been made to the DOT. We requested they conduct a study of the area and make recommendations for potential improvements. This area is located on a curve on Clintonville Road, and it's been the subject of many crashes over the years, some of which some of the cars ended up coming to a rest on this individual's lawn very close to their house. So they requested a guardrail and any other potential improvements to protect their family and their property. So this matter will come before you. I think it's appropriate to come before you once we have the report from the DOT. So I'm looking for a motion to table this until we have that report available.
Make a motion, we table till we hear further notice from the DOT report.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Regarding our recent homicide investigation, first, our thoughts and prayers from everyone at the North Haven Police Department go out to the family and friends of the 28-year-old homicide victim from 10 days ago. July 17th, around 11:20 a.m., reports of gunfire on Dixwell Avenue came through our emergency communications center. Officers located a crime scene on Dixville Avenue at the intersection of the Route 40 eastbound entrance ramp. The victim was located in his vehicle several hundred yards away from the crime scene east on the Route 40 connector. Preliminary investigation tells us a shooter fired several rounds from a vehicle into the victim's vehicle, and the victim, who was struck once, died on scene and crashed into a guardrail. And the Connecticut State Police Major Crime Squad is assisting us with this investigation, primarily with the crime scene processing. On the same day, we made a homicide arrest regarding a murder from another jurisdiction. We were in the early hours of our homicide investigation. There was a report of a vehicle that struck another vehicle on the highway. The driver of the vehicle fled into a wooded area. Connecticut State Police conducted a search of the area, but was unsuccessful. So several hours later, a little after 3 p.m., a suspicious male was reported on Blue Ridge Lane. While investigating the incident, our officers identified the male as a 24-year-old from Hartford. We quickly learned he had an outstanding arrest warrant for murder out of the city of Hartford. So I commend our officers for a quick response and a thorough investigation, taking a very dangerous person off the street. They did a nice job. As the chairman indicated, we met with the Whitney Ridge residents recently. I'd like to thank the chairman and Robin Clark for setting up that meeting. Today, Mr. Frieda and I met with residents of Sony Drive who are concerned of safety issues in their area, very close to Dixville Avenue. I think it was a productive meeting, and we encourage anybody who has an active neighborhood group or organization who wants to speak with myself, the chairman, our command staff. We'll make ourselves available to anyone who has interest in that. Under budget, our budget is currently at 6.1% expended. Obviously, we're very early in our fiscal year, so it's hard to determine where we stand. If you take a look, you'll see some higher percentages than you would expect early on in the fiscal year. That could be explained by either one-time expenditures of a maintenance package that will last the entire fiscal year, or payments for things that are billed to us quarterly. So we'll be in good shape, and we were in very good shape last fiscal year where we closed at about 96.5%. As the chairman indicated, we had a lot of CALEA activity recently, and the deputy chief will go through some of those highlights.
As you mentioned, Chairman, July 12th and 13th, we had our 4-year CALEA assessment. It was done virtually. Normally it's done on site, but with COVID and travel concerns, it was a virtual process this year. Our 2 assessors were retired Chief Cardinal from the Henrico County, Virginia Police Department, and then a Captain McDonald from the West Orange Police Department. They were our 2 assessors. During the process, they conducted approximately 31 interviews. 14 involved members of the department, and 16 other outside, including yourself, Selectman Frieda, various other representatives, either in the law enforcement process or the community field. They were looking for kind of an overview of what people thought of our agency. Upon completion of the process, they did an exit interview, which was attended virtually by the chief, Lieutenant Thorpe, and Captain Stavridis. They indicated that 30 days from the completion of the assessment period, they should have a report that will go to the CALEA headquarters, and then the results would be given at the CALEA conference, the next available conference, which is the fall conference, which will be November 17th to 20th in Jacksonville, Florida. They asked for a list of focus areas from us. So myself and Lieutenant Thorpe, in addition to the chief, had a conversation. We tried to pick some high-risk areas so they can give it a thorough review to make sure that we're on point with our policies and our facilities. They looked at our detention area, our property and evidence room, how we take property and evidence in, how it's submitted, how it's stored, our recruitment and retention, and then our use of force policies and procedures. So those were the areas they looked at. An area of improvement that they requested, or that came to light, was trying to get more officers involved in the CALEA process as far as locating proofs for the assessor. So it's not the assessor currently, Lieutenant Thorpe, and myself, who did it prior to him, and then Captain Stavridis. They recommended, and I guess it's a normal circumstance for them to get more agency personnel involved in the process as far as locating proofs, submitting them to the agency. So it's not, one, two, or a handful of people working on it, that it's a whole agency process. So I've had some conversations with Lieutenant Thorpe, and we do have a plan going forward where we're going to try and meet with some of the supervisors on a regular basis and try to encourage a little bit more participation from them. So November 17th through 20th, the chief and Lieutenant Thorpe at least will sit before the commission and get the results of our accreditation evaluation.
Excellent, thank you.
I certainly appreciate all the work that Lieutenant Thorpe has done. I know the deputy chief appreciates it after being the past accreditation manager and really understanding, more so than myself, how in-depth that position is and how much work there is. And he does a great job with it all year. But coming up to this final assessment, it really ramped up, and he did an excellent job for us. Regarding new personnel, our application process closed on June 30th. We have, as you know, one open position currently, hoping to get approval for a seat in the post-academy class that begins in September, but no word yet. And we will have 3 additional positions that are budgeted for in January. We have 105 entry-level applicants and 4 certified applicants. Under ISD, we have had recent success with DNA tying crimes together. Not necessarily identifying suspects yet, but tying in crime trends that are spanning the entire state. For example, over the weekend, we received notification tying one of our stolen vehicles, the DNA that was found in one of our stolen vehicles, to 16 other vehicles from throughout the state. So the good thing about this is if or when that suspect's DNA ever enters the database, we'll be able to group those crimes together and solve an entire crime spree instead of one at a time. And the theory is this is because many of these suspects with the stolen cars and vehicle burglaries are juveniles at this time. Their DNA is not in the database yet. So to give you some perspective, as I've been trying to do for year-to-date numbers, excluding last year because of COVID, so this is January 1st to July 27th of this year compared to 2019, 18, and 17. For case numbers, we are at 15,300 compared to 11,800, 12,100, and 12,700. So between 2,600 and 3,500 per year more at this time this year. Overdose investigations, we are at 21 this year compared to 12, 10, and 12. Vehicle burglaries, 87 this year compared to 60, 158, and 102. Stolen vehicles, 33 this year compared to 14, 19, and 21. And shoplifting incidents this year, 111 compared to 63, 86, and 49. So as you can see, we're experiencing the same trends that we see our partners experiencing throughout the state. It's pretty typical for every agency to report an uptick in certain crimes, at least in Connecticut. For the Binary Scholarship, I have one request for consideration, and that's a graduate level course for Captain Stavridis.
Go ahead, entertain a motion to accept the...
I'll second that.
Or
was that a motion, or you're asking? I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And recently, members of our agency, as they've been doing the past few months, have organized another community outreach event. This Friday, July 30th from 6 to 7, we are hosting Dog Days of Summer. We hope families will join us for some ice cream and the opportunity to meet newer officers that they may not have met yet. This event is at the Dog House Grill, located at 117 Washington Avenue. And prior to going into executive session, one more announcement. There will be a September 11th, 20-year commemorative service held on the town green at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we certainly invite all the commissioners to attend and anybody watching from home.
Yeah. What's that? September 11th, 20-year anniversary. So before we go into executive session, the increase in crime is obviously very concerning, not just here but everywhere. And it just really exemplifies why we are very fortunate that we were able to get 3 more officers approved in this year's coming budget, because we need more people on the job to help with these situations. So it's a good thing that we have the support of the community and the town that allow us to increase our staff to help keep this a safe and lovable community that we live in now in North Haven. That being said, we're done. We're going to go to more executive session. Okay. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? Personnel? Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we are back in open session. I wanted to make one further comment about the CALEA evaluation. I wanted to publicly thank North Haven TV, NHTV, and Walter and Rob and anybody else that may have assisted in the production of the video that helped us with the CALEA evaluation. You did a terrific job, and we truly appreciate your efforts, not just with this project, but in all the projects you do here in town. That being said, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.